Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to TGN Technology. My name is Jared, and today we are going to be finally doing our full review of the Samsung Galaxy S3. Keep in mind, it is the international unlocked version. We do not have our North American LTE version supplied to us by Samsung as of yet, but when we do get it, I promise you we'll be doing some side-by-side comparisons, performance comparisons, and so on. But getting into the review itself, we are going to, in true fashion, start from the outside and work our way in. So, to begin with, as everybody knows, Samsung has their new quote-unquote hyperglaze technology or hyperglaze coating. Basically what that is a fancy term for super shiny, super glossy, soft-feeling plastic. Now, with that said, the differences between the Pebble Blue version and the Marble White version are a bit different. I have heard and read articles from other reviewers that the Marble White version, it kind of destroys the display in direct sunlight just because the glare from the white of the device is so overpowering. Now, I have put out a video showing what the display looks like in direct sunlight. And if you had watched that video, you can tell that, obviously, in addition to my lack of camera knowledge and skills, but in addition to that, it really was reflecting the sun back to the camera, back to my eyes, and I even think that maybe it was sort of distorting my vision of the display itself. I haven't had a chance to get my hands on the Pebble Blue version as of yet to see if maybe the Pebble Blue version is a little bit easier on your eyes in direct sunlight, but nevertheless, that's the way it is, and that's the way. But still, nevertheless, I really like the Marble White version. I think it looks really, really cool. So again, we're gonna go ahead and start from the front here. I kind of went off track there a little bit. We have our 4.8-inch massive Super AMOLED HD display, which also features Corning's new Gorilla Glass 2. I don't know if the HTC One X has it or not. I can't remember. You'll have to forgive me for that, but as far as I know, this might be the only device on the market aside from the HTC One X or HTC One series of devices. Very nice. I believe that in part of the manufacturing process, they've actually managed to get a little bit thinner, so that's pretty cool. And now, while we're on that topic, I'm going to throw this out there. As cool as having Gorilla Glass on your display is, it's not sort of the end-all of... It basically doesn't mean that you're going to be able to go without a screen protector. I actually read an article yesterday from the founder of freeerandroid.com, who's actually the creator of Villain ROMs, if any of you are familiar with that custom ROM. And he actually owned the device for a few days, treated it like a baby, just like I treat mine, and he noticed that there is a small scratch. That wasn't a scuff mark or nothing, it was literally a scratch on the device. He has his own pockets for it and everything, yet nevertheless it still scratched. So that's something to keep in mind. You might want to still get a screen protector, but that's completely up to you. As you can see there, I have received the notification, and the top left-hand corner we have our LED notification status light. Very, very cool stuff, not found in previous Galaxy S devices, so really nice that they finally brought that here. As you can see, it's blue for when you have a notification. It will then go solid red when you're charging it. You also have the option to toggle it to show when it's getting low on battery and so on. Really cool stuff. You can obviously download a third-party application to start probably changing out the different colors and things like that, but I wanted the stock experience, so I haven't really done anything to this device in terms of downloading those third-party applications and making those changes. Of course, we have our receiver speaker there with our Samsung logo underneath, our two sensors, proximity as well as... Ooh, boy, I really need to brush up on my sensors. I don't even remember what the other sensor is. Proximity and light sensor, I'm gonna say, as well as our 1.9 megapixel fixed focus front-facing camera. Down at the bottom here, we actually have two capacitive buttons. I know they're hard to see, and that's actually part of the coolness, I guess you could say, of the device. You have your menu button and our back button, as well as our physical home screen button. Now, a lot of people didn't like that it came to North America, or that it's coming to North America with a physical home screen button. I've always liked physical buttons, and I think that they've done a great job by just including 2 capacitives in one home screen instead of having menu, home, back, search key. And while we're on that note, actually, I had a viewer ask me, what do I think about it that it doesn't have the dedicated search button. I've never, ever used the search button on any devices I've reviewed in the past, on my own personal devices, ever. I never use it. I don't know why. I'm sure that it probably would come in handy and be a little bit quicker for searching things on my device and the internet, but I've never used it, so I've always just kind of gone the traditional methods, so that doesn't bother me at all. And you'll also notice here, and I'm going to bring it up close, and I'm going to refocus the camera here, you can see, and I'll see if I can get the light on it too, those buttons disappear. When they turn off, they are non-existent, basically making it look like the phone, the front of the phone is actually a little bit less cluttered, which I really like. So that's cool. Now, if you're concerned that, well, you know, when the lights turn off, how am I going to know where the bloody button is? You can actually, there's settings that you can use to have them stay on for longer durations of time. So that's really nice. So that's the front of the device. Moving on to the side of the device here, the left side of the device, we've got our volume rocker here, and you can tell that it's very slightly raised out of the device. It seems like it's a lot of manufacturers now are going for a low profile type of look in terms of physical buttons. They've definitely done that on this device, as well as the physical home screen button, as you can see there. If I can just get it just right, bumping the camera around there like a goofball. It is really in the device there. So I was a bit concerned, you know, if you had the device facing on the screen. I don't know why you would, because then you wouldn't be able to see the notification light. But you know, if you had it there and you were pressing on it, you know, would it press the home button and turn on the device? No, it doesn't. I've actually put it down. I can press there and picking it up. As you can see, the screen is not turned on. So moving around to the right side of the device, we have the power button. One thing, and this is actually also just raised about the same, yeah, well, obviously exactly the same impression as the volume rocker. But one thing I didn't really like is the placement of the two. It would have been nice if the power button was just a little bit higher up, because as you can see, if I put this in the white part of my background there, the volume button is actually pretty much lined up right with the power button, and that can be a bit of a nuisance sometimes when you're going to turn off your screen. Sometimes you'll inadvertently press the volume button as you're turning the screen off, and if you already have your volume set to low, it'll obviously turn it on to vibrate, or even silent for that matter, in which case you're not going to know that you've got notifications or incoming calls and such. So that could be a bit of a pain in the butt, but nevertheless, it's just something to get used to, right? Moving around to the top of the device, we have our 3.5mm headphones jack, pretty standard on all devices these days. Your little tab there to pry off the back, as well as your noise cancellation microphone. Moving to the bottom, we have your micro USB port, which doubles up obviously as your data transfer port, and your MHL port. And for those of you that don't know what MHL is, it's kind of the new replacement. So a lot of devices, probably last year or so, there's a lot of hype generated around having an external, or not, sorry, an external, but an internal or a port, an HDMI port output. So, you know, and a lot of people are like, well, why don't you have that? Well, it doesn't make sense to have that when you can actually turn your charging / data transfer into the same thing. And what it'll actually further allow you to do is charge the device while you have it plugged into your TV, displaying at full 1080p resolution, which is absolutely fantastic. I know my Motorola Atrix has a HDMI output, and if I plug it into my television to mirror it, it's not charging it, it is draining it. So really cool. Also, one other thing to note, if you do have a MHL adapter currently, you are going to have to purchase another one. Now, at the moment, from what I understand, the only people that have the new one that's compatible with the Samsung Galaxy S3 is Samsung themselves. And that's just because they've kind of changed around the pin configuration a little bit, so you're going to have to get a new one. They're only 25 bucks, and I'm sure if you wait a couple of months, I'm sure you'll be able to go on eBay and find some third-party ones that do the exact same thing. Whether they're the same quality or not is to be seen. Generally, Samsung makes some pretty good high-quality accessories, so myself personally, I'll probably be splurging for the Samsung branded one. Now, we'll move around to the back of the device, and of course, like every device these days, we have our LED flash. We have our 8 megapixel rear-facing camera, capable of recording in full 1080p HD at 30 frames per second. And for those of you that are into rooting and stuff like that, you can actually download ROMs these days that increase the bit rate of recording so that you can increase the overall quality of your video recording. On the right of that, we also have our speaker, which I think the placement of the speaker was fantastic. I don't know why more manufacturers don't put it there. It just makes sense because, quite honestly, if you're holding your device in your hand, and let's say you're watching, and I'll be honest with you, I don't use my headphones a lot. I use the speaker for almost everything, whether it's even just sitting here in my office listening to music, watching YouTube videos, what have you. Speakerphone especially, you know, if you have it on speakerphone and you're holding it in your hand, well, you know, you're muffling the speaker on other devices because the speakers are always at the bottom there. And so having it at the top there just keeps it right out of hand's way and unmuffled, and you can continue having a great audio experience. So we'll go ahead and pry this off. And as you can see in the back here, it comes with Samsung's 2100 milliamp battery. Now, something to note about the battery itself, as you can see here, it says near field communication. That means that the near field communication chip is actually in this battery itself. So for those of you that are thinking to yourselves, oh, I'll just wait a week for you know, some third-party manufacturer to come out with like a 3200 milliamp battery, hey, that's fine and great, and you'll have extra battery, but you're not going to have that near field communication. In fact, Samsung actually has specific deals set up with MasterCard, Visa, and all those other companies, you know, in order to use their licenses and things like that. And I'm going to tell you right now, those third-party battery manufacturers just aren't going to be getting those deals and those agreements and licenses that you'll find with Samsung. But it's really nice because, you know, they put in a 2100 milliamp battery, and that really should be enough. So moving down to the bottom here, you can see it's got a micro SD card slot. This is the 16 gigabyte version. You can also get a 32 gigabyte, and I believe there will be coming out with a 64 gigabyte internal storage version. So that plus a 64 gigabyte expandable SD card slot on top of the 50 gigabytes Dropbox storage free for 2 years that Samsung gives us. Excuse me, is going to be absolutely tremendous in terms of internal storage or just storage options altogether. So for those of you that are in the United States and have are with AT&T and Verizon, unfortunately you are not going to be getting those 50 free gigabytes, but it's not the end of the world, right? Of course, we have our micro SIM slot. So for some of you, but you know what, this is the way all manufacturers are going to start bringing out their devices now. So you might as well just go get a new micro SIM and throw it in there and just call it a day. So that's that for the back. For the inside there, we'll go ahead and clip this back together. Now, while I'm clipping this together, I'm going to show you here how easy it is, because other Samsung devices are always such a big pain in the butt to put the battery door back on. Galaxy Note and the Samsung Galaxy S2 and the Galaxy Nexus are all sort of in the same boat there. In terms of how difficult it is to put the battery door back on, and this is just really, really easy. Snaps in there. It's as if they kind of rethought the clips, because I'm sure they've seen in all of the videos people are like just struggling to get the battery backings back on. So let's go ahead and jump into the lock screen here. The lock screen is really cool. Of course, true ice cream sandwich fashion. You can get your notifications and pull down your notification bar. You can change around things on here like the date, the time, weather. You can also rearrange all of these quick launch shortcut applications here. As you can see, I've got S-Voice and WhatsApp. Obviously don't come stock in the device. I put them there myself. Really cool to see that. And of course, we've got our standard ripple effect lock screen that comes with the new Nature UX. Getting into the device here, a lot of people have complaints about TouchWiz, and they're really concerned because they think that Samsung did a really horrible job with TouchWiz in previous devices. This time, they've really put a lot of time and effort into it, into making it as intuitive and user-friendly as possible. If you're thinking of going to an Android, of coming to an Android from an iOS device, that being the iPhone, this is definitely a great device to jump into. And in fact, I think this would probably be the device to jump into if you're coming from any other mobile operating system, be it BlackBerry, Windows Phone 7, or iPhone. Very, very, very simple to use. And one big thing that a lot of people complain about, and in fact, a lot of reviewers always compare the smoothness of the Android devices, the overall lag performance of Android devices with that of the iOS, just because iOS is always so smooth. But you got to remember that the reason why iOS is so smooth is because it doesn't support true multitasking. It prioritizes the user experience over processes. So if you open up a new application, in order for it to open up really, really fast, it's going to kill the last app you just had open. Even if you want to jump back in your browser, you're going to have to surf for that page all over again. Whereas in here, it handles multitasking like an absolute beast. I'm going to go ahead and long press the home button, which launches my recent tasks. And as you can see here, we're going to go through this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 applications open right now, okay? And to give you an idea of how well it handles multitasking with all those various applications open, this is how smooth it is. 16 applications open, and there is no stutter, no lag whatsoever on any front. So really, really impressive. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with the new ice cream sandwich framework that's included. Also, I'd like to think that the majority of it has to do with the amazing work of Samsung Mobile's software engineers. They've done a fantastic job here. Now, something that I did want to cover is the browser. A lot of people are really starting to scrutinize over newer devices' browsers. With Ice Cream Sandwich, everybody's got their own type of browser these days. I like to think that this kind of stays true to, or as true as possible to, the stock Ice Cream Sandwich feel. So as you can see here, you've got your tabs up at the top right hand corner there. You also have the ability to go in sort of private mode. So if you don't want anybody, you know, same idea with like Google Chrome, how you can jump into private mode or whatever the name is. So really cool options there. And you know, really easy to access all your different pages, bookmarks, everything like that. One thing you'll notice on whites with the display is that when you start tilting it, the different viewing angles, it starts to give it this bluish tint, which is a bit irritating for me, but I believe that's probably got to do with the Super AMOLED sub-pixel arrangement, I'm sorry, without getting too technical there. Now, getting back into, you know, how much hard work software engineers at Samsung have put into this device, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the settings here and show you guys some really cool stuff here that is sort of the star of the show, among a lot of other things, that being the hardware and just overall user experience, is the motion gestures that they've included in this device. I don't know where they came up with this stuff. Now, I know that this device is supposed to be inspired by nature, and very human-centric is the word that Samsung has been using, or the term that they've been using. And people are like, well, that sounds really gimmicky. It's not. They've actually taken... you can tell they put a lot of thought into the different motion gestures that there are. These are actually motion gestures that I use on an everyday basis. I use probably about 95% of them, with the exception of, you know, maybe 1 or 2 of these motion gestures that I find sort of redundant. But the majority of them I actually do use. I have a lot of fun using them. They make sense, and it's not like they're overcrowding the amount of motion gestures to where you're going to have to actually try to remember all the different motion gestures in order to be able to get the full use of the device. They've limited to, what's this, like 10 or so, I'm not counting right now, and you know, they're actually easy to remember. So very, very good work on Samsung in terms of the motion gestures. Very, very, very cool. That is the epitome of human-centric. So power saving options, they've got a lot of great power saving options. Now, while we're on the topic, this phone has run fantastically. I constantly have the maximum of applications running in the background that this phone allows for. I'm constantly, you know, testing out applications. I'm putting this phone through the ringer because I just got the device and it's still got that new sort of you know, vibe from it, where because it's new, I always have to be touching it, I always have to be playing it. I'm always trying to test out new apps that I wasn't actually able to play with on my Motorola Atrix due to the incompatibility with the processor, that being Tegra from NVIDIA. It seems like developers have a really hard time doing that. And anyways, so I've been doing a lot of playing around with this device, and I'm going to tell you right now, battery is fantastic with heavy usage. That's heavy usage. Phone calls, text messages, emails, Wi-Fi on all the time. The second I leave the house, I have my HSPA Plus on all the time. No, not LTE. I know, but this isn't the review on the LTE version and their battery life. So battery life on this has been fantastic. Heavy usage, I get, well, super heavy usage, I get about a day, a full 24 hours. And with moderate to heavy usage, I get about a day and at least the good portion of the morning. Really fantastic there. But I do want to get back into the browser so I can show you guys some stuff here. So if I was to go to like a really, really content-rich site, and not to promote someone else's channel or website other than my own and TGN's, we're going to head on over to Engadget. And just because it's a really good demonstration there, so we'll head on over there. I'd like to go to their desktop version. We'll just jump in here. I'm sure it'll be at the bottom of the page to see how quickly it loads. We are running Wi-Fi right now, okay, so Wi-Fi, keep in mind. I can tell you that running off of HSPA Plus, the web pages load up maybe just a second longer than if you were on Wi-Fi, but you can see it looks great. Obviously this is the mobile version, so I can't pinch to zoom, so we'll switch on over to the desktop version here. Alright, so we're at the desktop version, and as you can see, pinch to zoom, loaded up the page, blazing. Oh, it's still loading a little bit. There we go. Boom, done. So that was really, really quick. Flash content, everything. Pinch to zoom is insane. I think we can go like this. Yeah, you've got your touch to pan. Again, this is one of those motion gesture features that myself I'm not going to be using. I just think that pinch to zoom is just a little more accurate. Go in there and you can see what it looks like there. It looks absolutely fantastic. Yes, if you look really closely, I highly doubt I'll be able to show this on camera to you guys, but yeah, you know, if I do have it about 4 to 5 inches from my face, I can actually make out some of the pixels. But nobody ever does it like that, so nothing to concern yourself with. But browsing is absolutely fantastic and very, very, very smooth. The smoothest browsing I've ever experienced on any Android device. So very, very impressive there. One thing I did want to touch base on is the keyboard. I've been asked by a viewer, you know, does it come preloaded with swipe? Like basically all its predecessors, all the Samsung Galaxy S2 predecessors do come with swipe, yes. For some reason, I don't know why they decided to opt out of it this time. Who knows? Don't ask me. I don't know. I'm sure if you Google it, you could probably find out, do some digging. I can't remember whether or not this device, if this keyboard is a whole heck of a lot different from that of the Note or previous S2 devices, but my experience with this keyboard so far has been absolutely fantastic. It's very responsive. Haptic feedback is very sharp feeling. My only problem with this would be the predictive text. It constantly makes me try to retype letters and select the letter combinations in order to complete a word. So once I do have this device rooted, I probably will be moving on to a different third-party keyboard. But for now, this is definitely going to do, and it works just fantastically.